I didn't encounter a lot of people that said, I love what I do.
Yeah.
And I really wanted people to love what they did, to find that thing that is that right fit, right, for who they are, for what they're meant to do, and what they get to do. Hey everybody, welcome to the Leader Lab. This is Leadership Shorts, quick thoughts to help you level up your leadership. My name is Chad Wright. I'm the founder of Forward Partners, and I am joined as always by my partner in podcasting, Emily Grace Deal. Emily Grace Deal, we got a weird subject today, don't we?
Yes.
Let's dive into it. What are we going to talk about?
Well, in a recent episode of Rethinking podcast, they talked about the advantages and pitfalls of expressing love in the workplace and referring to your team as a family.
Yes.
So this is an odd subject.
Yes, it is.
And I know you like to talk about how we love our clients.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about love.
Let's talk about love. It's such an interesting thing in a work context and in a leadership context. And I, like, often when I finish coaching sessions with groups, when I finish retreats, whatever it is, I tell them, like, hey, I love you guys. And part of that is because I think we need more love in general in the world. But I think in the workplace, when it's applied appropriately, I think it really is helpful.
Yeah.
The key is figuring out appropriately. And where this came from in this Rethinking podcast, Adam Grant and the guest, it was the CEO of Airbnb. And they were talking about the time in 2020 when obviously the pandemic just cratered the travel industry. And so Airbnb had to lay off a lot of their team, and it was a bunch of people. And so he sent out an open letter about the challenges they're facing. And part of it, he told everyone in the letter, I love you deeply.
Yeah.
And it was funny because Adam Grant immediately went, that makes me wildly uncomfortable, expressing love, because we talk all the time about the differences between we're a team and we're a family.
Yeah.
And I think we have an episode we'll link back to where we really do talk about that distinction. There's advantages to both, and really it's finding a middle ground. We're not really a family. And if we're strictly business, strictly a team, we're losing out on some of the advantages of that middle ground, right? And that's something people wrestle with all the time. And love is a really interesting piece of that. And so when I think about love, I think used appropriately. So let's talk about what appropriate is. I think the first concept is express love broadly, right? You love a team. You love a purpose. You love your clients, whatever it is. It's never specific. Like, I love you as a human being. That's where you're going to, HR is getting involved at that point, right?
You're making it awkward.
Lawsuits. Yeah, it's super awkward. Like, if we finished every day and I looked at you and you and you and you and I said, hey, I love you individually. That's weird, right? That's going to feel very, very awkward.
Well, if you do it like that, I'm kidding.
Exactly. But the team knowing, I love you guys. I love what we're doing together. I love the impact we're having. That's helpful.
Well, and there's honesty there, and I think there's a little bit of stigma to it that people do think it's weird, and so they just want to avoid the awkward in general. Yeah. But people also want to know that they are loved, so I think that there's two big sides to that.
Yes, they do, and it's a base human need, right? And part of it is loving the people involved, but also loving the purpose, loving the impact, loving what we're called to do.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big piece of it, because part of when we do express love and we do it appropriately, I think it helps people know where we're coming from.
Yeah.
That when I get really passionate about something, it's not because I'm mad about it. It's because I actually am coming from a place of love, and I want to make sure our impact is as big as it can be, right? And so when people come at things passionately, there can be a fight, right? There can be an argument. There can be a disagreement. If we're both coming from a place of love, that is so much more likely to go well than if we're both coming from a place of anger or fear or I want my way or whatever it is. So I think expressing love appropriately allows people to understand where you're coming from, that what you're doing, you're trying to do out of love.
Right, that it's coming from a good place.
Yeah, it's coming from a good place. And I think the other piece of this, though, kind of the other side of that, is it is not an excuse to do bad things and just be like, well, I'm doing it out of love. Like, that's not actually love. Like,
that's always true.
You have crossed a line there into some evil at that point, right? If you're like, yeah, I'm doing terrible things to my
you're
team.
using it as a weapon now, so thank you.
Exactly. And so that is no longer helpful. And so it can't be an excuse, but it does become a broad understanding of where we're all coming from. And a lot of this comes from a long, long time ago. Part of why we even have this business is I loved what I did for a living, like genuinely loved it. I loved every day. I love the challenges as much as the wins. I didn't encounter a lot of people that said, I love what I do.
Yeah.
And I really wanted people to love what they did, to find that thing that is that right fit, right? For who they are, for what they're meant to do, and what they get to do.
Right. Well, I mean, you're kind of into the whole finding your purpose thing.
Well, yeah, that is big. But honestly, a lot of that comes from that original thought of, I love what I do, and I want more people to find that.
Right.
I want them to really, really deeply love showing up to work.
Well, when
day.
you love what you do, and then you're like, this is a really cool feeling to not just be mad that you have to go to work. It's only a paycheck. Right.
Like that's the weird part. Like my favorite day of the week is Monday, and I think people think either I'm full of it or that's insane. Yeah. I'm not full of it. It might be insane, but I love Mondays. Like Friday's fine, and I'm always ready to rest by then, but I'm trying to rest so that I can get to Monday energized and ready to rock and roll, because it is another day to jump in with the team and get things done and have impact. And a lot of that comes from love. It doesn't come from even necessarily wins. Like wins are great and we need to celebrate them. We need to talk about them. That's not what drives me.
Yeah.
What drives me really is a love of our purpose and our impact and doing things as a team and the clients we get to serve. And so I think love expressed appropriately can be very helpful, but there's a very fine line there. It's express it broadly, don't express it really specifically. That's where it gets awkward and weird and very litigious. That's where the lawsuits start to come out of the woodworks. And so
that makes sense.
Just throwing that out there. So weird subject.
Chad Wright is not telling you to tell everyone specifically.
This is in no way legal advice. This is also not accounting advice. This is not HR advice. It's not any kind of advice whatsoever, except to say don't do it specifically. Okay. So leaders, let's talk next steps that you are definitely not going to sue me about. I think thinking where you come from, this is a great exercise just to say, why am I doing what I'm doing? Am I doing it out of love? Can I find love in my purpose and in the impact that we have and the good that we do? And does my team know that I'm coming from a place of love? Do they know that I care deeply about them and what we are doing? And so I think just watch that line there. Express love very broadly. Don't necessarily express it specifically. That's going to get you into some hot water really, really fast that you don't want to be in. But I think love really does have a place in the workplace and in the things that we do together as a team. And it's a very narrow, very appropriate spot that we need to apply it. Outside of that, probably not super helpful, but really look for that. Really look for what's driving you and your team.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing this awkward conversation. Super interesting. I love talking about things like that. If people want to send us really any kind of questions, if they want to express love for what we do, whatever they want to do, where do they send that to?
To lab@forwardpartners.net.
Lab@forwardpartners.net. If people want to find us online, where we are producing leadership content all the time on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, where do they find us there?
@ForwardPartner.
@ForwardPartner. Thank you very much for having this conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you, John, for producing, and thank you for watching. You, as a broad group of watchers, we love you. We really do this out of love. This is a labor of love because we want to help influence and we want to help develop leaders across the board. And that is the journey we're on, and we're dedicated to giving it all the way through these shows. And so thank you for watching. We love you very much, and we will see you next time right here in the Leader Lab for Leadership Shorts.